my own understanding and really like definition of queer cinema would not exist the way it does without Sundance.
Okay, so it's not too often that I get to have an old dear friend on this show, but that is very much the case with Eugene Hernandez, who is currently the director of the Sundance Film Festival, one of the most important film festivals in the world. We get into the state of cinema in general, queer cinema at Sundance with such a rich history, and just sort of catch up as like old friends. Hi, Eugene.
Hi, Peter.
It's so nice that you're here.
Thanks for having me to your clubhouse.
This is my living room away from my actual living room, and I feel like you're the first guest I've ever had who's like legitimately an old friend, which is kind of weird. But I should just say, like, yeah, we met here in Toronto 19 years ago, 2006 Toronto Film Festival, the first time we ever meet.
So I was here as an editor of IndieWire.
Yeah.
And you were our intern.
I was your intern. I had just finished undergrad, and I'd started grad school that week, and they let me start a week late so that I could do the internship at IndieWire. Everything's changed so much in 19 years, but I want to kind of start things off on a hopeful note. What is something about, you know, the film festival world, the film world, anything that like really sort of brings you hope right now? Or
youthful energy.
Okay.
The fact that there's so much enthusiasm and that I see a lot of young people just like totally digging into this festival, that brings me optimism because I see that playing out. The festival I work for, Sundance, we're moving to a new city, 2027. We're moving to Boulder, Colorado. And we did an event in Boulder last week, 2 weeks ago. And this first event in this theater called the Boulder Theater, and it was like 900 people, packed, people outside waiting to get in. And it was just like a conversation with the programmers of the festival. And there's so much youthful enthusiasm, and you see that playing out at movie theaters in New York, like Metrograph, or movie theaters in LA, like Vidiot's. So I don't know, I'm actually really hopeful that I see people waiting 4 hours, 5 hours to get into the mobile Criterion closet.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's something that's...
I feel it too, like in the air. There's like an enthusiasm for movie going, the actual cinematic experience of being in a movie theater, whether it's, you know, last summer with Weapons or whatever, but also like all of these old movies that people are going and seeing in droves. And it does also give me hope. I do run a queer film series in Toronto. It's the first one we ever showed. Almost sold out, tons of people. And my favorite thing to do before I do these screenings, and we've done like 50 of them now, is how many people have seen this movie before. And it's always over 50% no. And that to me is like shocking in a way, because it's like sometimes like only 50% of you have seen Carol. Like, but it's also just amazing that they're coming out, and it's mostly young people coming out, and they want to see these movies in a theater. They want to have the sort of collective experience of watching it with people, because it's not the same as watching it at home.
I'm in awe and admire your screening series, because every time you post about it on Instagram or on social media, I'm like, oh, I want to go to that screening.
Eugene, you do run the Sundance Film Festival, so I feel it.
But there's something like just really like something very specific and also very exciting to see, like the energy around the films that you're bringing to Toronto. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the Boulder of it all. I've been to Sundance, I think, 10 times. Pretty much every time you were my boss telling me what to do while I was there. And I loved it, and I love Park City, and I love that experience. But I do feel like Boulder's such a wonderful opportunity to it's going to be a college town, and not, you know, Utah has its limitations in terms of culture.
Well, I think in truth and in fairness, you know, like Utah's been an amazing home for Sundance for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
And there's an amazing queer audience in Utah that has grown and evolved and like supported the festival for all these years. So it's going to be bittersweet. But at the same time, as we lay the foundation for 2027 in Colorado, you know, a state that's led by an openly gay governor, Paulus, and whose parents are artists, it's really cool. Like, it's really exciting to have that opportunity, and people are really excited about it. So I don't know. I think these next 2 years of Sundance will be really special, because there's this culmination happening in Utah this January, and then there's this kind of evolution happening in Colorado in 2027. So it's going to be fun.
But yeah, definitely bittersweet, because I mean, the legacy of the queer films that premiered in Utah, Times of Harvey Milk, But I'm a Cheerleader, basically started the careers of Greg Araki and Gus Van Sant and Todd Haynes. Like, it's kind of endless what we could say. Clearly Sundance has like made its mark on queer cinema arguably more than any other film festival in the world, in my opinion. I'm just curious sort of how, not necessarily someone who's worked there, but as someone who's gone there for so long, how that festival has like spoke to your relationship to queer cinema and how that's evolved.
I mean, the Sundance Festival defines my relationship to queer cinema, right? Because like I was in college when I started discovering the films of, the early work of Todd Haynes, Jenny Livingston's Paris is Burning, Greg Araki's films, so many others. And I was like, what are these movies that are really resonating with me, and why do they all come out of this place called Sundance? Like, what is Sundance? What is a film festival? So when I went to 1993 and saw the movie Silver Lake Life, or when I saw Go Fish a couple years later, I mean, these are like seminal films, and it's like a year after Ruby Rich's queer cinema panel.
Or just declared that it was
She named a movement, New Queer Cinema, and her editor at the Village Voice when she wrote that piece was Lisa Kennedy, who interviewed me and Kim Utani and others in Boulder, Colorado 2 weeks ago. So there's like this amazing lineage, but I don't really think, without Ruby's kind of seminal piece in the Village Voice and then the book she's since written, I don't think I would have a real like way to define queer cinema in the same way. Like it would just be this like loose association of films.
Yeah.
But Ruby's work like really like contained it and like kind of uplifted it in a way that I think has like kind of paralleled Sundance's evolution as well. And Sundance continues to have amazing queer cinema. I mean, look at like Plainclothes this year.
Or Sorry Baby, really.
Sorry Baby.
Twinless. Yeah, I love Twinless so much.
So good.
Yeah.
So I mean that it is so much a part of the history, and I think my own understanding and really like definition of queer cinema would not exist the way it does without Sundance. And I think I get to be in a role with Kim Utani, our director of programming, who we get to like continue in that work. We get to continue to build that legacy somehow.
And continue sort of the rich history also of queer people having such a big part of Sundance. You and Kim are both queer. John Cooper was queer. Like it's pretty incredible. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing, and it's really special. And Sundance does like not just. I love TIFF, but Sundance sort of holds a special place in my heart just because it does feel like the queerest festival, like of like the big ones at least, just in terms of what it's doing. And
it's pretty queer.
I do want to talk a little bit about, you came into this festival 2022 is when you started.
Yeah.
What's happened in the last 3 years is a pretty wild time to be a person on this planet, let alone run a film festival that I think is in many ways becoming part of the resistance and will continue to be part of the resistance. And that just seems like a lot of weight to have to carry as a director of a film festival in a time where America is under such sort of siege in many ways. How do you push through that and stay sort of optimistic and hopeful?
I mean, yes, it's a weight, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. I think it's also a responsibility.
Yeah.
Talking about young people earlier, I think especially like younger audiences who live in Utah or other parts of the country, look to the work of queer artists to sort of make sense of what's going on in our culture and in our society. When I see just the range of work that's being created and the range of stories that are being explored, even in this moment of what's happening in our culture and in our world, I think it just gives me hope.
Yeah, I mean, and what gives me hope is that you're the person guiding this very important film festival at this very sort of important time. Yeah. So I'm really happy that you have this job, and I'm so excited to come to Boulder and see what Sundance 2.0 looks like.
I think Sundance aims to, again, continue to be a place to support and champion artistic expression, but it's like we're all part of a broader culture. What you're doing here in the most magical place on earth, the conversations that are happening outside this studio, in the theaters and outside the theaters in Toronto every year at TIFF, and other, whether it's Inside Out here in Canada or other festivals that, around the world that champion queer work. And I hope that the work that you do or that we're doing or trying to do gives people who are watching these conversations like a glimmer of hope, or at least like a pathway.
And that's what film festivals or even just going to the cinema on a Friday night does. Like, films are community. If you watch them in a theater, like, they make you feel a part of something. And that's sort of the beauty of film festivals like Sundance, and yeah, I just have to say, like, I probably wouldn't have this job if it wasn't for you, because you sort of set me in motion on my career. So it's just really like full circle for you to be here, and I'm really grateful that you stopped by. Okay, 3, 2.